Seattle housing market sees highest inventory since 2015, offering buyer opportunities. Well, kinda. You have the opportunity to make an offer on a house and you won't have 25 people competing on it. You might have one or two, which is a normal market. So buyer opportunity, let's get into it. Here we go. Despite new highs across the housing market in Seattle, local real estate experts say there's reason to be optimistic as a buyer compared to recent years. Yes and no. What I would say there is no, because interest rates, screamed upward in July of 2022. So from that standpoint, and we are also, prices are still going up. They're going up at a relatively much lower level, but prices are still going up. We are not seeing price drops because there's enough people, even at these elevated prices, that can afford, even with the interest rates we've got going on right now. According to the latest data from RE/MAX as of June 2025, Seattle ranks third in median sales price in the United States. It's $766,000, up from $750 in June 2024, which is a record high for the Emerald City. So you've got record high pricing, and relative to interest rates, you've got much, much higher interest rates, which impact buyers' ability to purchase. So it's kind of a double whammy. You haven't seen a drop in pricing that correlates to the equivalent of interest rates going from, call it 2.75% or 3% up to 7.5%, even with 8% there, we kind of blipped up and down. And right now, I think we sit at like 6.8%, 6.7%, somewhere in there. And, of course, those move around as well. Seattle sits behind only urban Honolulu and San Francisco. Meanwhile, local data shows that the median home sale price in June 2025 for King County as a whole was even higher, $1,034,000, because there you start to bring in Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, Issaquah, and those all are just loaded with areas where $1 million doesn't even get you a starter home anymore. It just doesn't. Things have gotten so expensive. And that the $1,034,000 is nearly $79,000 higher compared to June of 2024. RE/MAX also reports that Seattle has reached its highest volume of available homes in the market since 2015. Topping just over 10,700 homes as of last month. It's roughly 50% more homes compared to June of 2024. So what I'm seeing as the owner and designated managing broker of Summit Properties Northwest, and also the owner of a real estate appraisal firm, Reynolds & Kline Appraisal, you're seeing buyers sit on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to drop just a scooch. So it'll put them in more of that affordable, all right, how much am I paying each month towards this home for the next 30 years? You're seeing buyers sit on the sidelines until interest rates hit. And I'm thinking around 6%, and I think a lot of other professionals think 6% as well. At 6%, National Association of Realtors, and I also too, think there's going to be a buyer influx. And that's just based on where pricing is in a lot of markets throughout the United States and how much 6% gets you purchasing power versus closer to 7. John Manning, managing broker at RE/MAX Gateway in Seattle, says it's strange to see those two metrics trending at the same time, given that a high supply usually indicates lower prices are on their way. But the problem is you've got just enough people who have the firepower to keep the market propped up and for prices to be going up slowly, which in this market with inventory, the way that it's gone up, prices going up slowly is a real anomaly. It's a real anomaly because usually when you have a 50% increase in available homes year over year, your pricing is going to drop dramatically. Also, keep in mind, we have come off of record low years of inventory. So even though they're up 50%, they're nowhere near where we normally are during a normal market. You're just not. We've been in a deficit for so many years because we've had people with low interest rates just jumping on whatever comes on, continually driving the market up in big, big price increases. But he adds that Seattle's robust economy and strong industries are still providing high-paying jobs, which are allowing home buyers to afford higher price tags. So things still going up. Still got a bunch of people out there. You got the tech bros that can still pony up big dollars. And that's what's holding the market together. And that's why it's not falling apart. Now, you get to markets like Florida. You get to markets like Oklahoma, Texas. Those markets, pricing is dropping a little bit because they don't necessarily have the vast number of tech bros. They've got tech workers, they've got technology, but not across the board like Seattle does, not across the board like Pacific Northwest does, Portland included. So you've got different dynamics throughout different areas, and Seattle is wildly different because we do have such a tech-centered employment, and it means that companies can come here, get established, and they can cherry pick from the labor pool. At the same time, homes are also sitting in the market for 24 days on average compared to 18 days. Okay, so they're sitting a little bit longer. That's still not that long. Under 30 days, that's a hot market. That's a hot market. Now, the other stats that we're seeing, which is massive inventory on the market, it's getting absorbed. It's still getting absorbed at 24 days, which again, 60 to 90 days used to be normal exposure on the market. Anything under 90 days, that was considered, pretty good. 120 days, that's getting a little soft. We are nowhere even close to that. It's for those reasons that Jeff Tucker, principal economist at Windermere, says that prospective home buyers could have some optimism this year. Here's the key word. Could have some optimism, meaning they don't necessarily have it now, but they might have it. But then again, most buyers are priced out of the marketplace just due to where they sit and their purchasing power, which is impacted by these stubbornly high interest rates relative to where we were in 2020 during the pandemic, when rates absolutely dropped. The Fed reacted to the pandemic and said, we got to keep this baby afloat. Let's drop those rates. And then we had work from home. Everybody's got to stay at home, and you can work from home forever. Well, that's not really panning out, is it? No. All the big corporations, Amazon, Facebook. Who's the most recent one? There's a big Microsoft. They've all said, yeah, I know we told you you're going to work from home forever. And all these big news articles came out, Wall Street Journal, everybody. Working in the office is a thing of a bygone age. Well, no, because what we didn't realize was that all the taxes that get paid, that pay out for all the stuff that goes on in cities, a lot of that comes from the downtown core. So political leaders have basically asked big companies, and big companies, they don't really want to have their employees working remotely. They want to have greater control of them. Let's bring them all back into the office. Oh, and by the way, we need you to bring all your employees back in because the ecosystem isn't working having everybody work from the burbs. I think one more kind of wrinkle in there is that buyers, I think, are benefiting. They're using that negotiating leverage to get some more concessions in the sale. True. They are. Maybe getting the seller to cover some closing costs. I've seen more deals go through with closing costs than I have at any point in time in the last 5 years. Because if you're in an area that's a little bit out, your seller may not have too many options as far as people looking at their property. If you bring an offer, they might even, come off that price a little bit. They might do concessions. They might, like the article says here, repair some things around the house that sellers were not bothering with 4 years ago. Because the market was so hot, you put whatever on, 20 offers. You're going to have everybody waive financing, waive their building inspection. All cash deals going to win. No building inspection. You know what I mean? It was so hot that if you wanted a property, you basically had to throw in your firstborn and say, please give us the home. In addition, he says that home buyers shouldn't hold their breath when it comes to waiting for interest rates to fall, as it remains in a political tug of war. Well, you've still got inflation. We're still dealing with the impacts of Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. You take a red-hot economy, you dump trillions of dollars onto it, you're going to have inflation for a long, long time. We haven't seen the results of Trump's tariffs. That's going to take a long time to kick in too. But if they do, and if it comes sooner than later, then you're going to have interest rates, stay elevated relative to where they were. And the bottom line, anything under 7%, anything under 8% is still a great, great interest rate. It's just that in years gone by when we had that, prices were way, way less, especially here in the Puget Sound region. Even if the Fed started cutting that short-term interest rate, it's not necessarily going to deliver a lot of relief from mortgage borrowers on that long end, which mortgage rates tend to follow the 10-year Treasury yield. So what he's saying is that even if the Fed cuts their federal interest rate, mortgage rates, they look at something else. They look at another indicator. Mortgage rates may not drop. You're going to have something coming in from the outside, some kind of deal that rocks the markets, and people go into hunker down. Let's drop interest rates because we want to keep everything going. Instead, he says to consider what you already can afford at today's mortgage rates and ask yourself if you're going to be happy living at the property for several years, and adds that interest rates do come down within a year or two to refinance. Marry the house, not the rate, right? But that's also something that real estate folks are going to say, I can get you into this property. It's going to hurt for the first couple of years. But when rates drop, and I would say if rates drop, let's be reasonable, right? If rates drop, let's do a little refinance. Tucker says to take advantage of the fact that there are more options as homes listed for longer, and the fact you will run into fewer bidding wars with other buyers. Okay, yeah, but you're paying at elevated levels, and, affordability is if you can get into a house, especially in a place like Seattle. Every house in every neighborhood, every community can be very, very different. When you got 50% more options to choose from, you got a lot better chance of finding that home. Yes, and also no. If you are priced out of the market, doesn't matter if there's 100% more options to choose from. You got no chance of buying. And that's what a lot of folks are facing, is they are just flat priced out of the Seattle market because you got median housing prices that are over $1 million for, a big region. This is, now we're going to jump into the MLS statistics. This is for the month of June. Across the board, 38.82% increase year over year. That is for all of the MLS. That is basically all of Western Washington and a bunch of areas in Eastern Washington. Almost 40%. And when you look at literally King County region, then you're looking at 50%, even more. All 27 counties in the MLS service area experienced double-digit year-over-year increases in active listings. That inventory is going up. 6 counties with the highest increases in active inventory were Columbia at 70, Grant at 61. Those are east of the mountains, and those don't have big populations, so you get a little bit of inventory that can really run those numbers. Snohomish County, also a very low population area relative to geographically how big it is, 50%. Whatcom to the north, 49.02. King County, 46.69. That is a massive number for King County, because King County has the highest population of anything in Washington. And then we got Adams County east of the mountains, 46.51. Those numbers are way, way, way up. Now, what's interesting is let's look at key boxes located at listed properties were accessed, a 4.5% decrease from May of 2025. So even though we've got 50% more inventory on month over month, you only got a 5% decrease. And a lot of that happens June to May. Kids get out of school. People aren't out looking at homes as much in June as they were in May. that doesn't really bother me. That number doesn't bother me. Key box activity increased year over year by 4.9%. Okay, so you've got some stuff here, which is telling you, even though we've got way more inventory on, there's still stuff happening, or we don't have a cratering of the market. Total number of property showings scheduled through MLS provided software decreased 6.8%. All right, so 7% number of property showings. Okay, that's significant. That is down for sure. But then 50% more inventory on. So year-over-year increase of 3.1% from the number of showings in June of 2024. And so what I'm saying there is, even though you've got a massive more, much bigger number of stuff sitting on the market than we've had in the past, especially in the past year or two, it's still not corresponding with a drop in prices. So, interest rates, maybe they bump up to 7%. Those opportunities for buyers, those disappear. Until you get a price drop, or you get interest rates dropping, or both of those, I don't think you're going to see big opportunities. But you know what? This is media, and media's got to spin something, right? They got to spin something. They can't tell you it's all gloom and doom. So they got to say, hey, read our article offering buyer opportunities. What are those going to look like? Well, I think you're seeing them now, even at the price levels we're talking about, because you're seeing concessions. You're seeing way fewer people competing on the same number of properties. Way fewer. I mean, it's way down. And you can kind of get out. You can do your due diligence. You can probably actually get a building inspection done. And to me, not have to waive your financing, not have to give up your firstborn. That to me, that is the real opportunity relative to where we've been. So despite pricing being more, despite interest rates being more, there are positive things that I think people are getting out and about, or they're getting out and about and they're looking and they're kind of waiting for those rates to drop. And if rates do drop, then I think you're going to have a little bit of spark in the marketplace. Otherwise, regionally here in the Pacific Northwest, we need to be thankful that we've got, a lot of tech bros propping that market up. And when I say tech bros, I'm not meaning to be sexist and, exclude the tech sisters. It's just kind of a saying, right? That's what we're doing. I'm saying anybody in tech is, has got those stock options maybe, or they've got that income level that other industries don't. They can afford housing in today's market, whereas other folks just can't. People in the service industry, it's tough. Young people trying to get going, even dual incomes. It is a brutal, brutal market to get into. So I hope this was helpful as far as kind of where we sit. Is there real opportunity for buyers? Yes. From a standpoint, is there real opportunity for buyers in today's market? Yeah, there is. Is it what the media is purporting? Well, kinda. But that's how it always goes, right? All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.